do remember vaguely that when we were escaping, it was like really dark. It was at night. At the time, my mom had to carry me to the boat. This boat had over 100 something people on it, and we're at the very bottom. There's portions throughout the night where we had to stop to not be caught, and so we had to get out of the boat, and then we would have to hide in like a seawater where our bodies were, and so we would hide there for hours and hours until closer, probably like in the morning times, early morning before the sun rose, and that was when we were able to get back into the boat. I have another younger aunt that's close to my mom, and a cousin my age that actually journeyed that same journey on a different boat. About a year later, they unfortunately died. They were killed on the ocean. So. 2025 will be our 50-year anniversary of our Vietnamese community journey after the Vietnam War. How special it would be if we had a project for today to signify and honor the Vietnamese boat people journey. The next thing is I called up Denise and Gabriel, and they were on the same vision.
We were very interested in doing that because of my family background. We knew it would be a really personal journey to celebrate, my heritage, my family, and then also be a good way to also educate and bring our kids closer to their history and background as well.
We started having meetings and discussions, working with community members. I ended up sitting down with about a dozen Vietnamese refugees. That way I could have a better grasp on what I was trying to represent. One of the people I interviewed was Father Viet Nguyen, who was a boat person refugee. He was, I think, 16, and he had been a fisherman, and he showed me a picture of his actual boat. It wasn't the boat that he left on, but it was his fishing boat, and it was very common size and style of fishing boat. And so that was the right size boat for the space we had in the military park. There was debate about whether to make the boat dark or colorful. And a lot of the boats that people left on were dark, and for a very specific reason, because the boats were being abandoned at ocean because there was no coming back. And a lot of the boats that were leaving, they were leaving at the dead of night to avoid getting caught. And so there was no reason for those boats to be painted. And that's the reality. But the other reality is that there are a lot of boats were painted, and there was a lot of success in being a fisherman, and there was a lot of pride in people's boats. We tried to give the boat as much of sense of hope through the colors and imagery.
And I like the idea that it is colored because, like he said, that the ones that weren't painted were dull, and so you're not coming back. But the idea of it being colored means you do come back. You come back
Right.
to your culture. And
Right.
whenever I was thinking about the boat and from my own families and many stories that we heard, and a lot of it was about hope. And what the boat represented was hope and a new start and a journey to a better future. And so whenever I came up with the imagery, I thought about all the symbols that represent Vietnam, like the lotus flower, which is, I think, the national flower, which also, represents good life, prosperity. And then also the turtle represents like wisdom and longevity. And it's all these symbols of what Vietnam represents is exactly what they all hoped for into the boat. I try to show this migration and bring it in a positive light because it is a dark, very dark story because so many lives were lost in the struggles that I know that occurred on those journeys. And it shows you the resilience of the Vietnamese community and how they've been able to go from nothing to where it's at right now. It's like a really thriving community.
The community really wanted the story to be preserved. They wanted the greater community to know what happened and to be reminded. And so I proposed to design the boat as a space that people could engage with. Part of what I proposed is after the boat was finished, I would use the boat to preserve people's stories. I'm going to be spending the next year and a half inviting boat people of Oklahoma City into the boat and recording their stories, and I'll be compiling essentially a book a historical anthology the Asian District Cultural Station will own once I'm finished and have to distribute, kind of educate the people. And so the design of the boat is not just something that represents the story, but it's also a space to share the story.
There was like, this kind of this, in a sense, of my own disconnect to my own culture from being criticized of the field I went into. It was nice to be brought back into the community. People welcomed me instead of judging me. So it brought me closer to my communities. I really appreciated this project for just my own personal reasons to reconnect with my community.
It was a really hard process. At the end, I was really happy with it. I know a lot of people are pretty happy with it, and I hope the community is able to relate to it, and it brings some meaning and some importance to their story, and brings a light and allows people that didn't know about the story, whether they're not Vietnamese people or they're younger Vietnamese people, like our daughter and her cousins, to be more aware and learn about what happened to Vietnamese people's story leaving Vietnam.
For many people, it was hard for them to talk about. But for many people, they cry tears of joy because it gives them an opportunity to open up, to actually talk about the stories. The only way to preserve our history and our stories is to be able to open up and talk about the hard things. So then our younger generations will know what it was like, what was the journey like, and it could be passed on to more generations down the future to actually understand, what their history is and where they came from.
I would like people to just see humanity in a light. Everybody has a story. Have some kindness in your heart to understand, and some patience, and just listen. Everybody has their story, and these stories create who they are. And if we all have the love in ourselves to see each other as humans, then we can collectively care for one another and make a better place to live amongst one another. We only have this one world. Being all separated, it's not the way to live. And obviously, refugees, the Vietnamese community, they couldn't have done it just coming here alone. They had help from community members, volunteers, and sponsors. And so it takes a collective group of people to help raise one another.
When people understand their neighbor's stories, it brings them together instead of pushes them away. And I think that through experiences that are hard, whether it's being a refugee or anything that's difficult in life, it demands strength. And so when people make it through those things, they become stronger. And by sharing those stories, the people around them actually, I think, are able to become stronger.